Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
He's good. I had to walk my dog in the rain today. He loved it. He loved it. So Christine at the back door. She doesn't want to go out.
And I'll open the door and she's like,
Does that,
Nope.
is it like murky or just a lizard?
He is unfazed and unbothered by the rain, and he loves to be dried off, so.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
owl out.
exactly.
He's
Yeah,
like-
I think that must be what it
That's-
is. Yeah.
Yeah, I can track it. I can find it. Find the rules, yes. We were having technical issues with the technology in the other room. I think he is able to come and we'll get to him, so we can get started. I am him for now.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, no problem.
We need it.
We had a situation that he needs to attend to, so yes, he's in the building and made.
Well, it's. Yeah, at 6. Just, you want to stay on time?
Has anyone said that they're not coming?
Well, Mr. Hudson might not be here depending on how long his meeting goes.
I didn't see anything in the email that maybe they're just taking a little more to get here from this, right? They're going to give them a few minutes.
Yeah, was everybody able to get in? Should I check the front door? Okay. Good.
Hi, good afternoon. Someone's, Ms. Middlebrooks is at the
She's,
door.
okay, okay,
She opened the door when I came.
all right, then. I know sometimes if they step away to do
Yeah.
something, there's usually a little.
Are you sitting when you guys get started?
Yes, and it's my last 2 meetings like 5-6 years ago, so I say something I need to say or do, but. Is this the person meeting?
No, it's the first, like, in.
Oh.
You guys see how little this is?
So just to let y'all know, at the GOTeam office, we do have equipment for hybrid meetings that your school can check out. We have an omnidirectional mic and a wide angle USB camera if you want to do that. So just let me know and I can send the link and the school can check it out for the year.
Oh, awesome, okay.
And Diane, before we start our meeting, if we wanted to change our agenda slightly in the order of the agenda, could we do that, or what would be the steps to do that? To give Mr. Hudson time to come in?
So per parliamentary procedure, the only things that you have to do in order are call the meeting to order, call roll, and approve the agenda. After that, the rest of the agenda is up to the chair's discretion as to how it progresses. And then the final thing, of course, is adjournment.
Okay.
So you have to, like I said, you call the meeting to order, you establish quorum, and you approve your agenda. After that, everything is up to the chair's discretion. Does that help?
It does help. So it sounds like, when we go to approve the agenda, if we want to change the order of items on the agenda, does that need to be
Nope.
up to the chair to decide the order of agenda items that we go to? Okay.
I mean,
Um,
I mean, honestly, having served in a chair role, sometimes it's courtesy to let the other members of the Go team know, hey, we're going to skip to agenda item number whatever for this reason, but we will come back to the other items.
Okay. That sounds good. Gosh, I think we're gonna call our meeting to order. Good afternoon. Welcome to Sarah Smith Elementary's Go Team meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I am Elizabeth Walensky. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Go Team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. Any members of the Go Team, please identify yourself when you speak. I am pleased to call this meeting of Sarah Smith Elementary's Go Team to order at 3:04 p.m. Our first order of business is to call roll. Anne, will you please take the roll?
Mr. Champion,
Present.
Elizabeth Zelinski,
Present.
Simona Hinton Derrickson.
Present.
Pam Newman, Carla Lamar,
Present.
Jennifer Moore. Present. Chrissy Stewart. Present. Ben Miller,
Present.
Lucretia Smith,
Present.
Andrea Almario.
Present. This team will only be able to take official action if a quorum is present. Anne, is a quorum present?
Yes.
Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you by email and has been posted on the door. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Anne. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Champion, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We will review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes were provided to you by email. Are there any corrections to the meeting minutes from last meeting? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll approve the minutes.
Thank you, Lucretia. May I hear a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Carla. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. All right. Given our agenda that we have, I'm going to change the order a bit.
What's that?
Would it be?
They're getting tiny online. If you
Oh.
complicate it, it would be.
Where do I
Um,
duplicate it? He set this up, so
Where's this mouse?
you gotta go out of this. There you go.
What's it?
Really tiny. That's the problem.
Because it's not,
Okay.
I have. A quorum, when a quorum is present, we can vote.
Duplicating the screen, like
Yeah.
mirror. Oh, okay, I know where that is.
Right from the beginning.
I'm gonna wait for Mr. Champion because he is serving.
Sorry.
That's what I think we can get.
It's
So on the
almost-
agenda items, we are going to move to discussion item C, optional school uniform. We have an important decision to make regarding the implementation of an optional school uniform. Our goal today is to decide whether we wish to move forward with this initiative. If we vote in favor of establishing an optional school uniform, we will then discuss the formation of an advisory committee to help implement and manage the process. If we vote against establishing an optional school uniform, the school will not have a school uniform in the 2025-2026 school year, and we will proceed to the next agenda item. Before we move forward, Mr. Champion, on behalf of Mr. Hudson, are you able to provide the team with background information on the policy change of the dress code?
I will attempt to, yes, let's do it. Where is that slide?
It is,
That is, it looks like
I don't have it open.
here's the revision right here.
And I have the new dress code open as well. And it was, I believe it was, I don't, maybe it was just emailed to a few of us, but Atlanta Public Schools has adopted a new dress code effective June 3rd of 2024. This year, the dress code requires the following: that a top, a shirt, sweater, or blouse of non-see-through fabric, you can see it on the screen. The bottom of non-see-through fabric, so a pant, skirt, shoes, and appropriate undergarments.
Any questions about those?
I actually did have a question about the dress code. So when I was coming up in school, there was links, measurement links for short skirts and links of, you know, on your tops, you know, if you wore a tank top. It looks like the dress code is now 2 pages and it looks like there is no limitations on links. Is that correct?
Well, we say things like no short shorts or skirts, so I
Mhm.
guess it will be administrator or teacher's discretion to report whether or not, I mean, within reason, like if it's above the knee, but then it's still nothing exposed. I guess it's case by case when it comes to that, but it appears to be way too short
Yeah.
for a skirt. And if shirts are exposing too much, then we will address.
On the second page, they have a few more specific.
Have you seen these?
Cleavage.
I have, but I think that, isn't that saying that those are problems, right? These are problematic provisions
Things that, yes,
that we,
They're not specific.
right?
but I don't believe we're measuring anything. No. Just visibly, if it appears to be,
Has the new dress code been communicated to the, like, this team, the teachers and team?
it's in the handbook, and the handbook was shared, the district handbook, but specifically this and the way it was written, I don't know if we set aside.
So then how enforced will this be enforced? Like I see no hoodies or hooded jackets, like. First of all, this.
This is not.
That
the
is
dress
not-
This
code.
is not the dress
This is
code.
Examples of
Examples are
of
problematic.
not, things that are not included in the dress code. The dress code was literally this slide. This is the dress code.
But isn't examples of problematic school specific dress code provisions, meaning if
These are,
you wear those, that's a problem.
No, it's saying that language is a problem, because it's not explicit enough, like you can't say no activewear, because people can be like, well, it's not activewear, it's athleisure or something, you know? So it's saying those specific words are problematic and it should be more
So
specific.
don't include these in your.
Correct,
Yeah.
Okay.
correct.
so yes, at the top is not transparent and bottom, and if the shoes have I know the shoes piece, because the shoes have to have this year some kind of enclosure in the back, like even if they're sandals, there should be something wrapping the heel, as opposed to like a free slide or a flip flop. And so for students, as they're coming in the morning, as I see that, I will correct that, but yeah, I mean, I think we're okay as far as the dress code. We haven't seen anything that's too.
I feel like it's less of an issue for elementary
For
school
elementary,
because
Yeah.
because
they wear what their
we're
parents get them usually.
observing what it- So we don't run into that too much. It's minor things like the thing I've seen the most this year is, remember, when you come to school tomorrow, we have to have a back on the sandal. Like it's pretty much what I say to most students. Yeah.
So does everyone feel like we have a good understanding of like what the dress code is at this point?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you for that information and for sharing that. So I'm gonna ask a question of if there's, let me provide this information first. I'm gonna ask if there's a motion to implement an optional school uniform. And if there is no motion, then that means the GOTeam does not want to implement an optional school uniform at this time, and we will proceed to the next item on our agenda. So let me ask the question again. Is there a motion to implement an optional school uniform?
Before you move to that, implementing a school uniform doesn't have to be with dress code, right? That's like a different decision.
That's all right.
Yes. Do we want a school uniform? What are the pros and cons?
So we can continue the discussion then. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So would you like a motion?
There, it doesn't need to be a motion for for the conversation. So this is, I think, the conversation of understanding what the dress code is now.
I misunderstood you.
Yeah. Confused. So this is what the dress code is now from Atlanta Public Schools. Our option that we have to consider is if we want to start considering a school uniform for our school. I think that this is new with the dress code policy changes.
Yes, I would like to consider an optional uniform for the coming school year.
So are we saying like khakis and a Sarah Smith shirt, or like, are we talking that kind of way, or are we talking
I
dress?
think that's the next thing on having a committee that'll kind of.
The commission will develop
three
different
different
pieces,
Yes.
Bottom, top and a sweater.
but that's what the committee will decide.
Right. We're not deciding what the dress code will be
Okay.
today. We're deciding if we want there to be a committee to
Committee to
start
kind of look
pursuing
further
that.
into it.
I honestly didn't think we were like a dress code type of school. I didn't think that was representative of. But
A pro is that a uniform can probably encourage school spirit. Some can say it limits creativity, expression,
But then, of course, like uniforms create belonging.
create belonging. And go
You know, let's, your plug, your $2 for this shirts, whatever, but maybe those would be the things like, rather than us making the decision, yay or nay, could we, if we put it to the community, could that include like some sort of survey? Finding the interest level and the willingness, could we, wouldn't want to make someone feel coerced, even though it's optional.
I think
Could
that's
be
what this
possible,
body
yeah.
is sort of for, is to be the reference.
I think we're deciding during that.
Just
with
whether or
the
not we would
school
like to extend it further.
I don't, so this is what it says, if we move forward,
If we decide no, I'm just asking, in general, if we say no today, is this something that can be revisited later, or is this like,
I think
no teams are expected to address this today and that's it?
Took up several slides. It made it
I
look-
think, sorry, I think Dwight said we could table it and come back to it, perhaps. So I don't know if
Yeah,
that's.
so go ahead and establish it.
If we agree to establish a committee today, the committee can later come back and say yes or no.
Yeah.
So we can say yes to the committee and then let the committee do the work.
I like that.
And
I
then.
don't think that's what it says here. I mean, like what? The committee will be responsible on slide.
Yeah.
Recommend the optional components for the uniform, develop engagement plan to receive feedback, establish student voting timeline and process, determining how long it'll be used, like, I don't, I think that I don't know, I mean, I read through this, I thought the purpose of this was for us to discuss here today, if we thought that we wanted to establish an optional school uniform for the students of the school.
No, I
So-
think this is making a committee.
Yeah.
The committee is not, the committee is responsible for recommending the components of the uniform, for developing a stakeholder engagement plan, for establishing the voting timeline, which doesn't appear is of what we're doing here, but maybe I'm
So-
missing something.
I'm sorry, can I help a little bit? So just to let y'all know, you guys are in the first week of meetings, and since this is a new policy, we're learning as we're going. So we have learned this week with the other schools that have had meetings that we did have to update our language a little bit, especially for schools that do not currently have school uniforms. So part of what the School Uniform Advisory Committee's role will be is to explore if your community wants the school uniform. And if the community, that will be part of that that stakeholder engagement plan, is to receive feedback both on, is this something that we as a community want? And if so, what do we want it to look like? So we have updated our School Uniform Advisory Committee's scope to that aspect. And
Sure.
again, I apologize that you guys got the first draft, but just want to let you know that we do have new materials,
Are
not
there-
greatly different. The other thing that I did want to clarify is that even so a couple things around this dress code policy. One, students cannot lose instructional time for not wearing a uniform. It's wholly optional. And the dress code is the dress code. So there's nothing on the dress code about whether or not you can wear spaghetti straps. There's nothing in the dress code about showing a belly button or anything like that. It's you wear a top, you wear bottoms, you cannot show undergarments, and you have to wear shoes. So that's why those other phrases are problematic, is because we want kids to come to school and be educated, and the board wrote the policy very specifically in the way they did for that reason. So just try to help level set a little bit on some of that. Does that make sense, y'all?
Yes. I think we have just a little bit of confusion on if we are just moving forward saying we want to form the uniform advisory committee, or are we?
Yes, she updated and said, yes, that's what we would be voting
Okay.
on, and the committee would be deciding based on community input if we wanted to proceed with
Okay.
it.
The committee would not be deciding. The committee cannot make decisions for you all as a Go team. The committee would be charged with researching it, doing that stakeholder engagement, and then bringing recommendations to the Go team. So like the recommendation that the committee may bring to the Go team is that our committee has absolutely no interest in having an optional uniform. You know, and then the Go team could take that under advisement. The timeframe for the committee to do its work is roughly between end of October and beginning of April. Like there's this, so this is a long, the policy was new in June. We are implementing it, so we're giving everybody plenty of time to have those discussions with their community. Does that help y'all?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need to have more discussion in the room about it?
I think so. So are we gonna form a school uniform advisory committee?
I mean, we can take a motion for that. You had already moved for that once, right?
Yeah, and then, I don't know the person's name, but they told us, Diane told us that the document we're reading isn't current, so. And so I understand now that there's sort of a slightly different process here, right? But that makes his process not really very helpful that we received anything. So. I'm for school uniforms. I think it's a wonderful way to make for a more inclusive environment and provide other options to people. And I've seen it work really well in loads of situations at all different types of schools in all different parts of this world. I'd love to be a part of the school uniform advisory committee. I don't see who, that's, I guess, the part of it to me, right? That we need to sort of figure out.
Well, we have one motion to form a school uniform committee. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. So I think we'll go ahead and move forward with taking a vote on if we want to form a school uniform committee. If you're in favor, say aye. Aye. If you're against, say nay.
I don't see the need. It's never been an issue as a teacher. I'm here in the field. The dress code has never been an issue and so I don't see the need. I do worry about those kids that might not be able to afford, or then I worry about it becoming something that we teachers have to enforce. And then what happens if it doesn't, if the student doesn't come to the uniform. So I worry about those little details just in every day, what if. So because it has never been an issue, because our students, through the years have followed the dress code, I don't see it. I don't see it as a.
Does it have to be connected in that way? Like,
Well, isn't?
I take your point that
That's the
okay.
committee's job.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just.
Right.
We're just hearing your opinion. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
So they could
So,
explore it, come back and say.
and nay, Ms. Almaria, or is it any other nays? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Carla's abstaining.
I think
Oh, Mr. Champion's
You're not.
abstaining. Oh, you can vote. So just so we have it clear on the ayes to form the committee for an optional dress code. Okay,
So before that,
Yeah.
it's an optional dress code.
Mhm.
Every child does not have to.
correct.
Yeah, but then there's some that do and
We
then you
can't force
don't, and where is that, you know, the do's and don'ts,
Yeah,
and
that's
what they're
part of
gonna
the
do
committee's
to
job.
the don'ts.
Yeah.
in that. As a teacher, you know, that's where that's.
the committee will explore, but I think a counter or a point that's kind of in line with that, I'm sorry. Is there?
Oh, no, I didn't know if I was voting along with you.
Oh,
No, I got you as well.
You're good on the votes and.
I guess,
I got.
for, I guess, when, if you do establish it, or if it is established or determined and voted on, I think that to this, Mario's point, that there could be a reverse. I'm trying to figure out where to find my words for this. There could be a situation in which families are, there's a kind of, when we're wanting to promote inclusivity, some families who again can't afford, may feel
That's the
that.
things that the committee will do. I
Okay.
think we just need to get in, but we get the committee to do all that.
So it sounds like we have enough votes in favor of implementing an optional school uniform committee. Diane, the language that I have for what the committee's role will be sounds like it's different than what it was previously. But I will say, can you confirm, Diane, that the committee that will be formed should include up to 3 GOTeam members and then may include other members we identify from our school community?
Yes, up to 3 GOTeam members. We recommend at least 3 students at the elementary school level. Again, this is based on the policy as written by the board. And then you guys can decide who else you may want to add. And you don't have to have specific names today for those other members, including the students. You can just say, well, we want 3 student ambassadors. We want an alumni representative, a parent, you know, whose students went through here, and a parent from Sutton. We want a business leader from around here. So you can kind of be general in the role without having the specific name on the committee. Because, you know, you haven't spoken to anybody if they want to be on this committee or not, right? So you can't appoint anybody else without knowing if they would agree to be on it.
For our GOTeam minutes, what else do we need to have on the record for this? Because including students is also, for elementary, was not included in the information that I was provided as the chair. I think it's great to include students, but in the information I was provided, it was only set for high school and middle school students. So what else do we need to have on the record for our GOTeam committee today about establishing this committee?
Okay, so I put in is there any way that somebody can let me share a screen?
I can't. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll share.
Okay.
Sorry, I need to turn the computer so I can see what I'm doing.
Everybody enjoying the fall weather? It's kind of nice, huh?
How do I give you the share? Let's see. Well, how do I give you the sharing ability?
Can you make, if you click on participants,
Okay.
and then sometimes the easiest thing to do is just like make me a co-host.
Make co-host. There we go. Okay.
Nova,
All right.
leave it.
All right, so you can, this is the updated slide. This is the updated objectives of the advisory team. You can see to receive feedback on implementing a uniform and its components if adopted. So I think that covers that exploratory part for y'all. The rest of the objectives are the same.
Okay, thanks, Diane. Is there anything you have on the record for this portion of our GOTeam meeting?
Well, so the Go team needs to decide if you have any other objectives beyond these 5 that you want for the committee.
We're waiting, we can't.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to get that one up on the board. I've got to drag it up there somehow, but I don't know how.
Is that not her?
I can see what she's sharing. I don't know if.
Can I end the show here?
No, like, well. in
He
this-
drug this up. Does that make sense? He's using 2 screens and he drug the slideshow up. And it's, so I can't drag this up. Hold on 1 second. Let me try to.
sharing her
Can you
version.
press this?
If you go to the top, if you go to the very top of that one, it should say end slideshow at the top.
Okay, I want this one. Okay. Now they can see it. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. No worries. It's learning all of this nice technical stuff, right?
I know. I used to do these Zooms every day.
It's just flip-flopping one and zero.
Yeah. So I think you're now seeing my screen, right? Because at the top it says discussion and you only need to have the discussion if you voted yes to maintaining or exploring an optional school uniform. Yes? Is that the slide y'all are seeing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. So you as a Go team need to decide if you have any other objectives for this advisory committee in addition to these 5.
Does anyone have objectives they would want to add for this committee to consider? Yes.
I'd like to add, some consideration given to families that might need some sort of support, either, providing the uniforms or financial help or something, like, just to make sure that there is inclusivity across the economic spectrum.
Okay. Makes sense. So providing financial assistance for people to purchase uniforms, part of.
And I don't know what that would look
Yeah.
like. I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
No, they should
to
consider
give
that.
some sort of consideration to, being able to opt in, but it's difficult when it's, financial hardship. So what would be some options that the community could look at? Just to make sure that we acknowledge that.
I'd be happy to pull some information on that from schools and other parts of it. I know they've been able to successfully implement this in areas where the majority
The
of
startup would be
students-
more difficult than the ongoing piece, because a lot of times people will have a,
No, I hear you, but there's
Don't-
more funding out there for this sort of thing.
Oh,
This is it's a very important point that you're bringing up, and I'd like, whether I'm on the committee or not, to be able to share information with the committee on how other APS schools have been able to solve for this
Yes.
riddle in a way that all students have access,
right.
and then it is truly optional.
What else do we want the committee to consider bringing information to us?
I think that's pretty thorough.
So we've added an additional objective at this time, and
Can I just say one more thing?
go ahead, add another one.
I would just like to make sure that the committee considers the fact that when they're looking at this, that they remove any bias. So that, like, if, you don't participate in it, you're not gonna be seen in a negative light. If you do participate in it, it's just a, just helps that decision.
Think about a way to remove bias within the school culture of whether students are
Or not
participating in the
participate,
optional dress
right.
code or not participating in the optional.
Right,
Yeah, that makes sense.
okay.
No, I mean, if you have, that's a great point.
The committee will be parents. school staff and
Student.
students.
Students in there too, and I like the alumni.
Yes, and who's choosing the?
You choose them.
Yeah,
No,
But I
that's
was
not
saying
in the-
From different
says-
backgrounds.
but I would love great feedback.
Yes.
I would love feedback on that.
Well, will you bring, so are we nominating?
Oh, the
people or
committee
you're
chair.
Your nominees first.
That, I mean, that's a question for Diane to tell me, because
Members of the committee are the next discussion. So focus on the objectives right now, and then the next slide will be the members that we'll talk about it.
any other objectives we want to add to the committee?
Okay, we're good with our objectives.
Is there another slide that talks about committee members?
There we go.
Here we go. So as the GOTeam chair, I would like to name Ben Miller as the committee chair.
I think I heard him say that.
And then we can have 2 additional GOTeam members to also participate. Is there anyone from GOTeam who would like to be? Jennifer Moore, is there anyone else who would like to be, and Lucretia Renna will be the GOTeam participant chair? Yes, thank you very much. And then we will need to have 3 students as outlined below. Elementary school ambassadors. I think that we would let Mr. Hudson pick the students. I think that is the most appropriate way to go. Unless somebody has different feedback.
That's
on
what
that.
it says.
Oh, yeah,
if
we
we
don't
don't
have
have principal.
Great. And then other committee members may be added. So that is 6 people. I would think we would at least is another 6 too many? It's too many. How many,
Feels
what's
like-
the right
I'm
number?
just on an uneven.
An uneven.
Yes.
Good point.
Maybe 3 more?
3
more
more.
would be
So
uneven.
1 additional staff member and 2 parents, additional parents. Does that make sense? Anyone have any more feedback? So,
Wait, so you said 1 more staff member and 2
and
more
2 more
parents?
parents?
I think, yeah, and I think when looking at parents, you should maybe try to gauge the different perspectives. So like someone who's been around for a long time and maybe someone completely new to the game. Because then you get the perspective of what it's like entering a new school in the community without having that perception of already, you know.
Do we know, have any of the other cluster schools for North Atlanta cluster have an optional uniform?
I don't know.
I'm not aware of what it
Not aware of what it's
for
I think this is new this year.
the
a
North
new
Atlanta
thing.
cluster.
For
Right.
everybody.
I think for
I know
everyone.
of schools that have uniforms, but not aware of any of this cluster.
But I was curious maybe to have their experience or
They were Burgess.
That's for the-
They do. Burgess Beers and I think that's. That's the one.
And Mr. Hudson may also have feedback on the parents to include. I would think we would want at least 1 parent with 2 students at the PC and 1 parent with students at the IC. And then can let Mr. Hudson also pick the staff member teacher. That's fine with me. Does anyone else have feedback on that?
The only feedback I was gonna share is our new psychologist, who's brand new, is also a Sarah Smith alum herself. So she went here. As a student, so, you know, maybe
Good recommendation.
just,
And I think we should also be cognizant of that all like cohorts within the school are represented.
That's gonna, yeah,
So just make sure that
okay.
through the parents.
So you
through
both,
the parents.
Ben and Lucretia, you have students in dual language immersion. And so the other parents will probably need to pick 2 parents from traditional classes. So that we have a balance, 2 parents with DLI and then 2 students with traditional. Thank you.
And then also maybe like some more native Spanish speaking.
Yes.
families.
or how they.
Great. Anything else for the committee of the people who will be forming?
I'm not in front of the screen.
Are you guys good with your committee members?
We are.
Okay. Whoever the secretary is, please make sure that you captured what the Go Team has said they want for their committee members. And so now you guys can vote to establish the committee based upon your discussion.
Okay, based upon our discussion, is there a motion to establish the committee with the objectives that we've outlined? Is there a motion to establish said committee?
This is Ben. I make that motion.
Thank you,
Yes.
Ben. Is there a second?
Simona second.
Thank you, Simona. All in favor of voting to establish the optional school uniform committee based on the committee outline that we've outlined and the objectives that we outlined, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, can
Sorry.
all right, so is that everyone?
This is the voting for aye of what we outlined.
I know, yeah.
I second it. Does that count? Or should that be scratched and?
You can,
Revised?
I'll take your second. You can check. I think it was for the,
All those
Minute.
voting nay? Any abstentions? This concludes the establishment of our optional school uniform advisory committee. We will post the approved resolution to the GOTeam webpage and submit it to the district office. Okay,
And I'll be sure to send the officers a copy of the updated template for you guys then to fill out. I'll get that to you in the email immediately, okay?
you're gonna move back to discussion item A, the school strategic plan. I think, Mr. Champion, do you have that information to go over from Mr.?
And I'm gonna stop sharing because I
Okay.
don't think y'all need me anymore.
okay. Okay, let me do a screen share. Why is it? not- Okay, Zoom. I know, what's going on? I don't know.
You're just showing it. Start slideshow, right?
This is it.
To share them.
But I have to share the screen.
Yeah, new share.
Oh, new share.
This is the one, right?
Yeah,
All right, so that's in it.
so now
And then I can do the
start show.
current slide.
Current, yeah, I'll just go to the next one. Okay, going back though. Do. Okay, this is where we are.
Thank you.
So I can read this if that's, if you would like me to. By 2025, we will increase from 56% to 65% proficient or above on the Georgia milestones in literacy. By 2025, we will increase from 57% to 66% proficient and above on the Georgia milestones in numeracy. By 2025, 100% of our care team meetings will utilize the 7 core components in order to support our students that have social emotional challenges and maintain a suspension rate of less than 1%. We will implement a series of parent workshops and fireside chats to increase parent engagement to improve our CCRPI attendance from 38.3%. I'm sorry, 83.3% to 88% by 2025. Those are our SMART goals. So under What would you like me to read
I am
next?
too old.
So we are this is the part where we are just reviewing.
This is-
These are the same as they were last year. This is our time to review these before we move on into our data discussion of the map results.
Well, and as saying, should we and can we push this to the next meeting? Since we don't have just the content.
I know, yeah, I mean,
Yes, Diane.
Diane, Mr. Hudson has been held up in a meeting. So, I'm not sure how much progress we can make on this discussion without him. I mean, Mr. Champion is here to represent him, so I mean, let's make an effort that we have, I think, the discussion that we have, and then we'll certainly table it for a follow-up when he's available as well.
I'm sorry, Mr. Champion, what's your role in the school?
It's the principal.
Mr. Champion is fine to help lead this discussion. And if you have additional questions for Principal Hudson, you can always cover them in a subsequent meeting. I know, for example, that you guys will be revisiting the math milestone scores because they are embargoed by the state, so you can't talk about them today. So, some of this is like not foundational, but this should be.
By the state.
So
Yeah, so with the math milestones, there were new math standards last year. So the state had to look at all the milestones results and develop new cut scores for the different levels. And that took a little while. So the state has embargoed those district and school level milestones math results. All the other milestones results are out: English language arts, social studies, science, end of grades, and all the end of course for high school kids. But those are embargoed right now. I believe the last I heard was September 27th. So at your next meeting, you'll be revisiting those.
Diane, my understanding is that
That's my.
has provided the schools the milestone numbers, and they can be sent out to individual families. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what you are saying is that the comparative data within the school, the comparative data at a district level and at a state level, you're saying that the Department of Education for Georgia is not allowing us to look at that information until September 27th. Is that correct?
Correct. It is embargoed for public release. So I'm sure that Mr. Champion has seen the data, but he's not allowed to discuss it at that school level or subgroup levels. So as parents, you have gotten your students' individual results. That's fine. That's one data point, but we're not talking about the entire building at the moment. With math, only with math. You can still talk about ELA, social studies, and science.
and we have those.
Yeah. And we also have the map data results as well. The map
Yes.
test scores from this fall and the map test scores at the end of last spring.
We don't have the milestones, ELA. Was that in our data that we got from Mr. Hudson? 'Cause I don't see it in my slides.
It's just math.
It's just map. And so our SMART goals are related to milestones. So I feel like the milestones data is kind of important when discussing if we're hitting our goals that are based on that.
So should we,
Talk about it.
should we table this for next time, and then instead of talking around it, or maybe saving the full discussion for us having the math, like once math is ready to be discussed, then we can just talk about everything at once, or is that too long of a gap?
From a milestones perspective, I think I think it's okay to wait and talk about English and math together at our next meeting on October 10th. But I'm just one person who thinks that, and other people may have other feedback and want to talk about ELA, but we should still talk about math today, I think. Because we have that data. But what do other people think?
Does that impact our strategic plan as much as milestone does?
It's
Um,
gotta be used to-
Does CCRPI include MAP?
Well, the spring map, not the spring, the winter map is the spring map is our predictor for milestones. So does it affect it? No, but it does give us some information and some data for the milestones when we take it and sort of a predictor. I don't know if that changes it.
We could review our priorities. And go through those and make sure we still align with them. Or, I mean, I'm kind of like, I would like to have a comprehensive look of what we're dealing with. So, we get on.
I think it's. You want to, Mr. Champion, do you have talking points you want to go over about the strategic plan?
I do not.
Okay.
If you have questions about what we can see for priorities, we can discuss, but I literally came into the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Champion,
minute
for being
before we
here.
started without knowing.
Yeah.
Yes.
We appreciate that.
So are we discussing priorities now or?
Well, I think we're kind of discussing it. Yeah, I think we're kind of discussing it. We want to discuss the priorities.
Is there anything we can cover now on the agenda that doesn't require more data or Hudson to be engaged?
Well, with this slide, we usually make sure that we want to keep these rankings or move them around.
I see.
So what we can do here is maybe make a preliminary rank to be on deck to discuss.
So if I can help you out at the moment, this ranking was the ranking that the team made for last year. This is the ranking the team made last year to drive the budget for the 24-25 school year. It is here as a reminder to tell you that, hey, this is what we're working on for this school year. What you're going to be working on for this fall, if I can I share my slides again?
Yes,
Please? Okay.
I think you're still co-host.
Yeah, I bet I can't, I don't think I can share
Right, let me stop the share.
while you're sharing. Yeah.
Pop it in the chat maybe? Is there?
Nope, got it. Okay, so, hang on. I'm gonna go down through this. So leveling.
Sorry, I lost my mouse.
Okay, so what you're doing right now is you're in this September through December range where you're going to be talking about your current data and reviewing your strategic plan, possibly updating your strategic plan and priorities. And then the thing that one of the last things that you do before winter break is to decide on what your priorities are going to be for 25-26 based on the data that you review this fall. Because then that prepares you for the budget discussions for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you. So I do have some questions from looking at the map data that maybe we could go over, and maybe just the teachers and the people who work in the school could help me with. So just
Wait,
looking.
so are we moving to map data now? Like, are we moving beyond the strategic plan?
We can discuss the strategic plan and the priority ranking, but we won't be making any changes to those today.
Well, I do have some questions about that. So these are the main priorities that we have for the school. People that are in the school, can you kind of talk to me a little bit about how this is showing up in the day-to-day run of the mill, every practice, every classroom, overarching goal of every student at Sarah Smith? Because these are our main our main priorities. I'd like to know how they're showing up to the students and how those are also showing up to the parents. So, I mean, I understand that there's a lot of data. So maybe kind of talk about how that's being used in the classroom and
Am I-
also how it's being used.
Is this the correct slide?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I was going through, I was looking at this,
Oh,
the school strategic, these ones. They go back.
Oh, go back.
Which I
Okay,
think that in the middle,
Margot?
Yeah, the school strategic priorities.
okay.
I'm looking at those because those to me and the school strategies tell me what's going on inside the building. So I'm kind of wondering how that shows up for
Okay.
our kids.
So for the first one, I'll just speak to it. Embed data-driven multi-tier system of support to improve all subgroups' performance in math and ELA. So that's our MTSS process that we go through with our students. All students, but the students in the subgroups is what we have outlined in that priority. So we're focusing on the math and ELA in that MTSS process. Students are tiered, and actually Mr. Champion can speak to that pretty well.
Based on the screener data, we determined we have students that are carried over for reading and math who had reading and math interventions for last school year. But we also use math data from the fall, whether or not those kids still need that support or which set of new kids also need that support. And then once we look at that data, it's typically students that fall, the school kind of sets their achievement percentile. So I have not talked to Ms. Upshaw, the MTSS specialist, to see for tiered support, what that cutoff is going to be for this year. But for EIP support, students that score below the 30th percentile in reading or math are possibly or would be eligible for EIP supports. And that's for reading or math. And we do have reading EIP teachers or support specialists at each campus. We have Ms. Throckmorton at the PC, Ms. Harrison at this campus. And so their focus is reading.
And part-time Miss White.
Right.
Is that
Ms. White, who's also, she shared between two schools, not two campuses, but us and I think Hutchinson?
Miles? Yes.
I'm sorry, for anybody, can you tell what EIP stand for?
EIP is Early Intervention Program. It's what the state classifies as support for elementary students. Once we get into middle and high, it's classified as something different. But basically, it's not, these are all general ed students if they happen to have EIP support or if they're eligible for early intervention program, they just will get more support in the areas that they need. So it's just additional reading instruction, additional math instruction to kind of have them progressive in those areas.
And is that in the classroom? Is it full out? Is it
It's,
attends?
it really depends on the grade level, the class size. So those are things that, so we're combing through data now because the window is closing or closed. And so we determine first we look at the amount of students who are eligible. And then I have to take that information and determine, okay, these are our class sizes, what grade level or classes can be pulled out to receive that reading support. If it's math support, is the class size an appropriate size to also have the teacher provide that support, the homeroom teacher? But it's different per classroom and per grade level. It really just depends on class size. There's rules about class sizes and the amount of students that can be in if they're going to receive that additional math support or all day EIP support. The easiest way I can explain it is that if they're going to be pulled out, none of the pullouts will be for math. All of the pullouts will be for reading because we have a reading specialist at the primary and reading specialist at intermediate. The math support that students will receive, if they have the appropriate class size, they'll be receiving that from the homeroom teacher, in that the class size supports them to be able to deliver that extra small group support. If that makes sense.
And if the class size doesn't support it, then how do they receive the math?
Then we still use the data to give them support. They just won't be flagged or classified as an EIP student, if that makes sense.
Who gives them the support then?
The homeroom teacher,
So there is additional support for reading, but there is no additional support for math.
there is in that if a student is low enough or scores under a certain percentile, they won't have the pullout math support, but they will have intervention plans if they qualify for those, which are a level that is above EIP.
Who does those?
So Ms. Upshaw is responsible for managing those
Right.
plans, but the homeroom teachers are given what they're needed to implement the plans from Ms. Upshaw. And then they are to, within small groups, determine when they can pull and provide that
Are
support.
there any schools or any that do a math support person like we do a reading support person?
Yes, it's really determined by the school and the needs of the school. And, yeah, at this point, we have the two reading positions, but now, yeah.
And what would be the class size that would determine if they can do the intervention in the class or if they have a pullout?
It's grade level specific, and
Okay.
I would be getting in the weeds too much, to
Okay.
talk about
Yeah.
what grade level and how many are needed for this
Right.
type of intervention support
Okay.
versus that. I could just share a link to the early intervention program guidance.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's what we're working on right now, is determining which kids are eligible within the next 2 weeks to see if they're going to be classified as early intervention program students to receive that extra support.
And then do y'all go over that with the parents as well? Like who, for students, I mean,
Yes. So if a student is eligible and can be, receive that support, we have to get their permission, parents' permission to receive that support. So especially if it's a pullout. So there are letters that are sent home. So the first thing, what we're working on now is determining who is possibly eligible. And then we take that information and then we look at class size to see what's going to work for each grade level, class, and student. Then once we have the guaranteed set of students who will be eligible and receive that support, we send letters and the parents can say, yes, we want to receive this support, or no. If they say no, we don't ignore the fact that the students do need the support, but it will be just the teacher differentiating to kind of give them that support. If they say yes, then if it's reading, they'll be pulled out depending on the grade level and the meaning for how long. And then again, if it's math, we'll be working with teachers to determine what supports we can kind of push in for those math students. And it's just for reading and math. Early intervention. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps, but so, I mean, but all along the way for all the other kids that aren't in early intervention or aren't, there's still.
There's still
They're
differentiation,
still getting that data throughout,
right?
like grades and benchmarks and things like that.
Teachers are using data constantly.
Okay.
We're always talking about data and, you know, a small group and a small group for 1 week for math for a specific skill may look completely different the next week. It's all dependent on, you know, how students do on pre-assessments and ongoing assessments. But we are really pushing that all homerooms and all teachers are using small groups and the coaches are supporting teachers and how that looks and what they can use for resources for that. But the needs of all students are being met, but as far as that formalized support, we have the early intervention program, and then when we get into intervention support, we have tier 2, tier 3,
Yeah.
reading that.
And the loss of that half hour.
The loss of a half hour, hopefully with our Wednesday tutoring to kind of make up for that, the Wednesday tutoring that we're starting next week. And so that's an hour every week, so that it's not the same, I mean, it's not the same amount of time, but it kind of helps make up the difference in that area. So the teachers, students for tutoring, that program that starts next week, those are students that definitely need remediation. So there are going to be 2 versions of that, and I won't get into the other piece now, but there's another enrichment piece. So students that don't need remediation, but want to be included in a group or after school club, enrichment teachers or specialists will be reaching out to them for that stuff.
so tell me more about the Wednesday tutoring.
It will start next week. The permission slips are going out this week. So the teachers are looking, using map data, using milestones data to determine, okay, these are the kids that need the most remediation. And then they'll extend those invitations to parents, but since we do not have bus transportation, it will be, we might get some no's for kids that really need it, but can't, the parent will have to come and pick them up. So that the after-school tutorial is every Wednesday, unless we cancel it for like conferences or something like that, but every Wednesday from 2:45 to 3:45, And we will be delivering additional instruction in reading and math during that time. For the tutoring students and then the enrichment students, those won't always be instructional. They might be things like a cooking club, or it's whatever the specialist determines they want to provide for students, because all teachers are included in the Wednesday tutoring. Some will be doing, homeroom teachers will be primarily remediation, and then the specialists will be doing the enrichment pieces. And
Like
then,
the entire staff.
yes, and that there's no, the priority is always gonna be remediation first. So let's say, just bad example, but let's say Coach Drake had a running club. And this is why I really want Zach to be on my running team. He would have to check with the homeroom teacher to say, Zach does not need remediation, does he? And if the homeroom teacher says yes, he can't pick Zach to be on, because we really need to shore up those areas first. But yes.
So if you have a student that needs both math and English remediation, would they get that from the same teacher? So is the teacher gonna do it for their students, or will there be a teacher who's the math remediation teacher, and all the kids may come to her class to do the math, and there's a teacher who does the English remediation? Or, so it's the kids stay with their homeroom for,
Pretty
For
much
tutoring.
for the
For tutoring.
remediation piece, homeroom teachers are covering their students, and they have a cap of 8 students, and it won't be like a full class. So we want to make sure that we're intentional about the size of the groups that we have, and then they have that full hour to determine what they're going to, like, how much reading and math they're going to incorporate, or is this just going to be a reading week or a math week? They'll have that discretion. They will kind of report to us like what their skills are going to be covering every week, and kind of taking attendance for who's able to come, who hasn't, or who's not coming. But, yeah, the cap of 8 students for the Wednesday turn. You might not have seen that information yet, because the permission slips were ready Friday, and I know teachers have been sending it home this week, and you may not have seen the permission slip because maybe your child's not in need of the remediation, or the specialist piece for the enrichment. That may take some more time for them to kind of formulate that, because they were all given the information at the same time. So, invitations for either would be ongoing, and the groups won't be static. It could be that teachers start with one group, and then that group is making progress, and now they want to invite 8 more students, or maybe exit 4 and then 4 more come in.
do we ever refer students to outside groups like La Massage or other services? Are you familiar with La Massage?
Yes, and it depends. I know that we were a partner with Lamastad for a few years before I left, to.
We
my
have, we have,
last role.
we still have students go to La Amistad, but it doesn't start until later in the year, the tutoring. But I guess like we can't, we teachers and we
Right.
can't really recommend that they.
Like I can't say, there's
Yeah,
a great program over here that you can use. We're not allowed to,
Right.
to make.
How do you get Lions Taught at your school? Cause I had it at Morningside.
no, we have it. We do have it.
Yeah, they pick us.
The bus comes here. Yeah. It just hasn't started yet this year, I think.
So how do parents learn about that?
I do not know.
I can.
that
inquire with,
answer.
Mr.
Yeah.
Casino to find out how parents do find out about it, but generally my understanding is that they've always, even when I taught here, they just always knew. Like I just always was told by the parents. I was told by the parents.
Hasn't started, I can.
They say, hey, my kid's starting Lamastad this week, and I had no clue. And I said, okay, they'll get on that bus. So,
Can I ask so is this is new this year, the 2:45 to 3:45 every teacher thinking,
mhm.
is that? How was that received? As, like, is it part of the teacher's contractual hours?
Yes.
Is that something that, because I just worry about the, I just worry about the, like, how
Well,
we maintain the, like,
It's all-
Yeah.
it is, and that's the balance that we had to work with, and that we didn't ask them to do it last year, even though it was a requirement last year as well. It was something that also.
Not a requirement in the board policy. It's listed as it can be asked of you. It can, just like staying after school in a meeting or coming for science night, and the teachers are burned out. It's really.
But yeah, it was,
So you are contracted though for
Yeah.
40 hours a week, so you have to act
And
40.
If you think about what all we do when we're at home.
Oh, I'm not
and
saying that,
other
I'm just
times,
saying.
And
we're
there
not
is-
gonna get into
sitting
it.
here at 6 o'clock in the morning,
gonna
where she's
debate,
asking
okay.
about this, and so I just want her to know.
Yeah,
that it
teachers were
was-
shared the
we were
information
blindsided.
earlier this week, and, we were warning that it was coming, we just hadn't had the guidance ready yet.
So
And,
we were told this week that it's starting next. week.
No.
no, we,
2 weeks.
No,
ago.
2 weeks ago, we said, this is coming, this is preliminary guidance, we kind of shared the hours, the days, what it's going to look like, but the specific details were shared last Friday. And we're to review those details with staff during staff meeting Tuesday while they're sitting on permission slips and.
And I can
Special-
say, we did tutor before, this is your first
Yeah.
year,
Yes, I was
we
like,
did, we tutor before. so-
We've always
Can't
tutored.
remember.
That's all well and good, but we also had science fair projects, we had GOTeam, we had GOTeam.
But it's been done
We have a
before.
lot.
Yeah,
As teachers, we
Yes.
As
have.
long as I had
Yeah.
taught here before COVID, there was always tutoring, so
Yeah.
it's, yeah, we're just returning to what we used to do.
As a teacher, it didn't take me by surprise because we did it before. And
There
then we.
It was
it
kind of
just
a-
shifted, Just changed.
Well, for the new teachers, there's a ton of new teachers.
I think it,
So maybe the vibe is different there.
and I think pre-pandemic, excuse me, it was, we just did it on Tuesdays, on Wednesdays, the same way. And then, obviously with the pandemic, it just kind of went away and it's just now picking back up for us, so.
And it's for the students, like ultimately, and the goal is to kind of help close the gaps.
Yeah, and that helps with, the 30 minutes that we lost. In fact, 100.
Not the full,
Get 60. so.
Do you have more, does anyone have more questions about the school strategic priorities?
Is the care team still a thing?
Yeah, and
Yes.
that said, that language in that one goal, like the numbers are correct, but it's actually whole child intervention. That name change.
And it is whole child intervention
Yeah, like
here,
the different
somewhat,
parts.
yes.
Okay, so
Written the right, care is whole child
Yeah.
intervention, if
Okay.
you see it, but yes.
Gotcha.
What is the difference between the multi-tier system of support and the whole child care team?
So whole child focuses on, just like the name sounds, whole child. So that's social emotional, psychological, behavioral, academics. So MTSS or multi-tiered system supports are a part of what is discussed when we have whole child meetings. Because we have representatives from each of those areas on the whole child team.
Okay.
And then we talk about the different needs of the students. And sometimes those are academic and sometimes those are more, they need class, it's something as simple as they need glasses, or they might need transportation to this, or can we get therapy for this student, like those kinds of things. So it's a part of the discussion, and in some cases, we might say, okay, I think we need to start a intervention plan for the student. So it's like, since we are represented by all of the stakeholders that represent the different areas, then they can then take their set of kids and then do what they need to do.
And how does a child come under the whole child care team
They're recommended.
from their
Yeah, either teachers or it could be admin, it could really anyone that says, hey, can you talk about this kid next week? And it's not a really formal, we kind of take the name, we take the input from the teacher, whoever shares that information, and then we kind of discuss and see what we can do to support them. And that's weekly.
other questions?
So this is.
Yeah, it is very important. Yeah, just keep going. I haven't one of those touched on.
Was that good? So what this one is.
Questions on the strategic plan, priority rankings?
I feel like we have to look at this maybe later because,
I think it still holds.
yeah. But I mean, just as far as like looking at next year,
Yeah.
like it's gonna.
Yeah.
That's when it's gonna change.
Mhm.
The way she explained it, this is more of an FYI or reminder.
Reminder of this is what
Yeah.
this is what we said. Okay. So I think this is just the kind of flow of how those go across with the indicators, so. This is the MTSS one. By May of 2025, Sarah Smith students will increase from 47 3/10% to 52 3/10% in numeracy as measured by the milestones within each cohort of students. So special ed, ESOL, our Black students demonstrating a 10% increase. And that the key indicator on that one is that students scoring proficient and above on the MAP growth achievement level predictions will increase from 43% to 47 by January 2025. And 47 to 53 3/10 by May 2025. So that's why I was saying that the MAP is our like predictor for GMAS. That's a good question, and I believe so, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think so.
Well, I think that needs to be
Yeah.
really looked at because the model's changing in 26, 27.
Yeah. And then this one goes back to that whole child team. Working on that attendance. So we were 83 3/10% attendance.
We were 81.
I'm sorry,
Last year, 81.
81.
point, And I don't have that decimal point number, but we was 81 something to 80. We ended on 83. So we did.
Okay.
improve, And so we're pushing that even higher this year.
And now CCRPI is not just attendance,
No.
correct? It also includes measurements of
It's
MAP scores.
multiple things.
Okay.
Yeah,
CCRPI is computed by Atlanta Public Schools or even.
it's the state.
The state.
Yeah, it's the
And
state.
they tell us what our.
Yeah,
competition
it's
is.
lots of different points for things, and you get whole points, half points,
Yes.
2
1.5,
points,
yeah.
1.5. So it depends on what it is, and I don't know all those.
As a part of that, there's an attendance component.
Yes.
Specifically for this one, that attendance goal is for upping that this year.
Yeah, so we want to get to 93. I'm sorry, wait, 88% on the
Well, and an
CCRPI
indicator being that attendance.
that we're at
being a
93.
Right.
Right, okay.
Are we still doing attendance? Like
So,
prizes?
yeah. so
Yeah.
As a part of Whole Child, so the way Whole Child meetings work is that we have, we actually meet for an hour, but really the first half hour is the Whole Child with all of the team members. The second half hour is the attendance ambassadors meeting. And so some of the Whole Child team members who shouldn't see access to data or sensitive information exit. And we have the attendance ambassadors focus on. We had our first meeting this week, so we haven't gotten much into what we need to do, but we look at those students with high number of absences. We talk about what we've already done for them, whether that's letters. We do interventions for those students, whether that's like having the parents come for a meeting, attendance contracts. Along the way, we're still sending letters and notifications, but because this work and getting this detail with attendance is starting much earlier this year. I think when I came in last year, it was kind of starting with already, I was handed a set of data and was trying to help to improve that. We had a lot to catch up on, so we always felt we were playing catch up. And I think this year we're getting started early, and that we don't have that many absences now, so we're able to hit those earlier and hopefully kind of increase that attendance rate this year.
And I don't know if this is a Sarah Smith thing or an APS thing, but like they're on it for if you're absent, they call you within probably 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's new.
Is it
Well,
the
that's actually
auto,
programmed
the
by
auto
us.
diet,
We
auto
set
call?
The Infinite Campus to do robocalls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's new this year. So I'm for it. It's like that.
Yeah, we're trying to do whatever we can to kind of increase that number, because if they're not here, we're not gonna get the growth we need, so.
And just to clarify, the ABA is excused or unexcused it's just absence.
It's just the average daily
Abs-
attendance, which is, yeah.
Okay.
it's-
Doesn't,
the
it doesn't
average-
care if you're excused.
No, I mean, excused or unexcused, no.
Okay.
A student could be sick for 2 weeks and that's 10 absences.
Still part of your.
It's still part of it. But we know it's excused. We're not responding to it the same way we would as
Yeah.
an unexcused, but
For that data.
yes, that's unfortunately, that's a part of it.
Yeah.
But if we just went by just absences for sickness, we would not having an issue.
Mhm.
We'd be fine.
And I think this is I think it's a nationwide issue, attendance. I know there was I read an article about it in in New York Times, like it's a struggle
Yeah.
everywhere.
Feel like-
Yeah, yes, very much. Okay. Well, I think, okay, so are we doing this? Okay. So spring map reading results, 2nd through 5th. So this is spring of 24. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th.
So you shared a little bit about the tutoring that is starting next week. What about parent-teacher conferences? When would those begin?
Those are going to be, I believe, starting the week after fall break, so the 21st. Is when this conferences will be starting. That's
Is
correct.
there like a span?
Yeah, so the,
Parents can kind of expect.
yeah, so it'll be that week. I believe was it just a week or was it 2 weeks? Mario, do you remember? Just a week?
My understanding is the week.
And then we can't say for sure. We couldn't give teachers the election day
Yes.
as a day because we haven't heard from the district what that means for what we have to do. But if we have that as a time for teachers, that would be another option for them to use that day as well. So you should be around report card time, because we were thinking after report cards, you kind of need a conference to check in. Parents should hear from teachers about setting up conferences. I know some teachers have said, I'm going ahead and
Some have already
setting them
started,
up
like,
right
a
now.
Standard set of.
Yeah. So,
Does anyone have comments or questions about the spring map reading results? And then the next slide will be the map results from spring. And then the next 2 slides will be fall map reading and math. Mhm.
so this is spring. Do you want me to go to the reading from the fall? Would that be
Well,
easier to
I'm
see the
asking
comparison?
The Go team, if they had, points of discussion on this.
I think it's best, like, when looking at these, it's better to see them. at the
Reading and
same
reading,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to go from spring
Right.
to fall on a completely different,
Yes.
so just.
Let's see, I don't know.
Yeah, but generally speaking, it's like, you can at least track, like, so what I did when I was looking at them is I looked at like spring for 2nd grade and fall for 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Kind of see what happened, to see how
Yeah.
those numbers look. And honestly, they look pretty good. So I was gonna ask if there was anything done over the summer. I mean, obviously I'm a parent and pretty much only read, but was there anything explicit that was like told for teachers to give out to their kids over summer, like a summer reading challenge? Is that like the million minutes, like, are we tracking bean stack? Because like, there's a good amount of growth from the grades, like especially that 2nd to 3rd grade and the 4th to 5th grade, spring to fall. So I was encouraged by those.
I'm gonna go
numbers.
I'm gonna go to reading fall so we can see that.
I
So,
agree.
like, if you look at the 5th grade, fall went up to 58 from 49.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, there was a little, there's a little difference in numbers. Our numbers actually went down in tests that were given. So there's about 11 less tests. But I mean, I think it's encouraging to see that. And then from second to third, it went from 40 being green up to 54 in the fall, which was very encouraging to see.
And there's
So-
the reverse of the summer slide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then like third to fourth stayed the same. So, I mean, I think it's positive.
Yeah.
I think it's a positive thing in reading, like the kids, I know in my home, the kids are enjoying reading, and I think that's indicative of a school culture that's putting an emphasis on it.
Well, I can say that for 2 years, we've been implementing, at least 2 years, it might be 3, I can't remember when we got them, but we've been doing read alouds, interactive read alouds. Our upper grades do a lot of content-based read alouds. So those are 2 things to keep, spark interest and keep students interested in reading in books. The Million Minutes, I think that was very encouraging for a lot of kids. It was exciting. So I think maybe just overall, those 2 things, not specific to the summer, but those couple things have really, I think, pushed our readers.
And I think it's really great to note that like there is that culture and expectation that's year after year, like you're getting these babies in pre-K, and that's already
Mhm.
something that's established. They're already excited about mystery reader.
Mhm.
They're already excited to go to the library. And so it's like year over year, because we know like you can't make massive changes in a year, but like from pre-K to 5th grade, there is a lot of
Right.
growth that can happen. And I think it's really encouraging to see that explicitly in the reading map scores that
Mhm.
are shown right here.
And again, with the content, the 4th and 5th grade teachers are able to take like those novel studies in their content. So American Revolution books, and I know 5th grade does, and there's Civil War books they use. And then 5th grade has some book, Dust Bowl and World War II books and World War I books and immigration books that they're reading, and the kids get so interested in that novel and that study and just want to read more and more and more. So.
Especially from some of those reluctant.
Right, exactly. And another thing we do, the foundation provides classroom libraries for teachers. So several of the new teachers already this year, I've ordered books for them and try to order those high interest, a lot of graphic novels. A lot of the books that I read as a kid are now, they've like reissued them in the graphic novels, like the Babysitter Club graphic, the Magic Tree House graphic novels, and then just those titles again that have been around for years that are great to have in the classroom. So we order those for the teachers to have in the room to read just for pleasure.
I just want to compliment the explicit phonics instruction that I see at a PC happening in kindergarten. And that same thing is in 1st grade, and then that same thing is in 2nd grade. And before you know it, the kids are just into that routine. And then when they do start, I think it's sometimes they don't even realize they're actually getting a more difficult book at the maybe or they're picking up a more difficult book. And then because once you learn how to segment and blend your sounds and you're reading words and sentences, they're not thinking about all the minutia that the teacher's thinking about when she's doing the lesson, but it's just happening for them because of, and I think that's a tribute to our teachers as well as Ms. Chestnut, but that's definitely happening. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it will be interesting to see how the science of reading how it can accelerate the growth this year.
It basically is the science of reading, just minus Lisa Calkins. But what I'm also seeing is that, the fluctuation in the math test, we had this issue at my last school was because the kid gets proficient enough because it's adaptive, it stops reading the story to them. And it stops reading the question and it stops reading the answer. And so you might see the scores kind of like 2nd and 3rd grade kind of dip and dive, and then they come back up again, but they get there, so.
That's a good point, because it does read to 1st graders. And
Yes. So you'll see like suddenly this drop and it's like, whoa, what happened? And the kid's a little frustrated too. They're
Yeah,
like, "Whoa,
they-
why did they read
This
that?"
used
And
to
they
read to
get out
me.
of it, but they're just like kind of bummed, but then the next that test that comes around, they're back up.
Well, reading is one thing and then comprehending what you've read is another,
Right.
right? It's like that.
Right, and that's a lot more cognitive load when you're talking about, like, if it's gonna read it to me, then I can just sit here and listen. It's like a audiobook. But then if I've actually got to use my cognitive energy there, and I've got to actually remember what I'm reading. go ahead, I guess. So you might see some fluctuations on that in that phase. So,
I'm not good at looking at the chat here. So do we want to go back to math? So there's spring math.
I want to be sensitive to everyone's time as well.
Yeah.
We're coming up on 4:30. Everyone has seen this presentation already, so does anyone have questions on the presentation of a whole? Anything else on other slides that we haven't gotten to yet?
I was just gonna say, I
Yeah.
can, Principal Hudson told me to go over his report. If you
Yeah.
want me to go over it, just that budget. Okay,
great.
I can, I mean, I don't know if I can answer your questions, but he did give me some directives to point out. So I can go over those, and then if you
Great.
have questions, you can circle back.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we answered some of the glows and grows in there anyway. So like it's all the way after the uniform. Okay. So for leveling for the budget, our projected enrollment was 846. 15-day count. So the 21st of August was our 15-day count. We were at 812. So we had a difference of about 34 kiddos. And the district uses a budget adjustment allocation to match the students. So we came in lacking about $181,356. So that's the difference that we had in those 34 kids. So looking at the reserve and where the reserves were, the priorities: offer authentic and diverse professional learning experiences and tiered coaching to increase teacher efficacy. So we created planning days for teachers provided by substitutes for PLC. We moved additional funds to the sub budget and additional instructional supplies in the amount of $139,862,000. And then we had develop a literate community in which students read and write with clarity and fluency across the curriculum, fostering academic excellence for all. Is that the APS 5? So the reserve funds for that was 37,800. So the next slide shows we had some personnel changes where we did not, Principal Husband did not want to lose any teachers. So we are losing a clerk that gave us about 50,757. And this was 2 reading teachers that was part-time. So that gave us about 80,000. So that's how we made up for that without losing any current staff. Instructional staff, we did lose a clerk, and we did not hire the 2 part-time reading. So those had not been filled yet. So it was just a wash straight across for the 40 and the 40. Which didn't quite make it up exactly what we needed, but it's close. So we're just crossing our fingers on that. So what did you have questions on?
That was the 2 reading teachers were
Oh,
not hired.
yeah,
yet?
no, they weren't.
Okay.
Yeah, they were in the budget
Okay.
for when we knew like what we were doing with the new stuff coming through and all of that. So yes, those were not
The only position was the clerk.
correct. Yes. The only actual person is the clerk. So
And going back to the slide previously that said the plan for fiscal year leveling reserve, if that's
one?
how we're using that money, is that correct? These are things we get,
This one.
between those. Yes,
This one?
this one. So these are things we get to spend or we're no longer able to spend? No, I thought, are we using this money for these things or we are no longer using this money for these things?
So this is what we had in our reserve. And this is what these two things were
So
for.
we are going to use this for these things.
So we're gonna,
So we're keeping those.
We're keeping these things.
I don't know. I thought we were losing that earmark of that reserve money.
Okay, we're losing that and the positions.
So 139, yeah.
Well, the clerk and those two positions, we didn't. Oh, I see what you're saying. Our fund are going toward that deficit. So, but I don't know that that's
Well,
used for that.
You're right, I was confused. So the
Okay.
deficit was 181,000. And we get 139,000 by taking these out of the budget.
Correct.
And then we get the additional 50,000 by removing those positions.
Yes.
So this had been to plan for substitutes during learning days, is that right?
We might wanna like clean up this
Yeah,
if
that's
we
not
could
fun.
perhaps and, I mean, I see what you were just seeing too, but not all this quite. Like, the 37/8 left out of the number on top,
Mhm.
right? So I think, Principal Hudson can probably
Yeah.
help us
Maybe.
understand this more clearly. It is nice, though, I recall him not preemptively filling those positions for the reading, because he didn't wanna have to then have a hard discussion later, so I think kinda it's tough to have to lose any number of people, but
He was very strategic and we were very fortunate. enough
tried
have
to be
something-
really thoughtful about
We were
it.
very worried about having to do that, but I think it worked out.
Yeah, I think that's really impressive.
So what class sizes are more different than you expected? Is there a grade level that you could say is not as large as you would have expected?
I don't have the data with me, but my assumption is that it's school-wide, like just in district-wide, like enrollment is down, period. And a number I read yesterday. Overall, the district's down 7,000 students. And so it's not just a Sarah Smith, low enrollment issue, it's.
Atlanta
spread
Public
across
Schools.
Public Schools. But we're unfortunate that we still have a very large school and high, student body, but, yeah, it's impacting all of us.
And it's only 34 students. So if that's spread out between,
Yeah, I was just curious if it
Yeah,
was spread
I
out.
think-
Maybe they're better than many others.
I don't think, there's not a grade level that's like tiny
No.
compared to a different, you know, when yeah, it's pretty much.
Like, even just looking at the number of math, tests given, I don't know if that's from spring to fall, like third to fourth went down, fourth to fifth went down, second to third stayed generally the same. So like spring, third grade was 140, but also that doesn't, because you get more people throughout the year.
Yes.
That doesn't
Change
account for the
rates,
change, yeah. never
And then
mind.
people come after Labor Day.
Yeah.
And that was on,
It's like
yeah.
people that are there those first, yeah.
How many do you have now?
Ours.
Right, exactly. Could you do the count after Labor Day?
Yeah.
Would be
so it's
great.
not- I'm like, that's apples to oranges, but
Thank you for going
Uh-huh.
over that.
I wish I had more clarity.
Other questions on? Later. Yeah, but we'll have to table
Yeah.
any additional questions. Okay. Is there anything else for discussion? I know the agenda included the cluster advisory team report, but that has not happened yet. There has been no cluster team meeting yet.
September the 28th is our first meeting.
okay, so it'll be on the next.
I would just like to say that our evaluation visit will be on the 30th and the 1st
The IB
evaluation.
evaluation.
Yes. And I may call on some of you to sit in on. some-
I'll take that car. I need to run to Fresh Market real quick. Thank you. I'll be right back.
Not in the room.
This is a request. It's public, so it wouldn't be on.
And if I remember correctly, before I left a few years back, under the care of Dr. Lamar, we had 0 matters to address the last time that we had this happen, the last time we had the doubt.
We did. We had 0 matters.
Not
to be
that
addressed.
And I'm very confident we'll be fine.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Lamar. And there is a Go Team
Oh, shoot.
You go?
Be right back.
on Saturday, September 28th, from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. You should have all received invitation to that from the the GOTeam office.
Hey.
I
Vamp,
have a friend wants me to sit with that event on Saturday, September 28th from 8:30 to 2:30 p.m. For GOTeam.
The 28th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Saturday, 28th.
And also Taste of Sarah Smith will be on the 20th.
Yes. This is Sarah Smith. Hopefully you've already registered. Getting pretty full, but they do need more food submissions. So if you are coming and would like to bring some food, make sure you sign up. And then, our PTO fundraiser will start in the next week for the Superstar Sprint. That is gonna be great. And I think one of the great things about Superstar Sprint is it also includes affirmations, and the kids get to show their IB learner profile of being caring to their classmates and get to encourage each other during that fundraiser as well. Any other announcements? Okay, hearing none, we have reached the end of our agenda. Again, is there any additional business at this time? One last shot. Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you,
Carla.
Dr. Lamar. May I have a second? A second. Thank you, Ms. Moore. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating in the GOTeam meeting.
Thank you.
4:40.
I am thrilled.
Sorry, guys, that was a little.